Okay, we're live. Okay, thank you for your patience. We are now coming out of closed session and we're into our regular session of this special council meeting. Is there a motion, Councillor Feeney?
Mayor, just a couple thoughts before perhaps a motion. So I think council's benefited from having a closed session discussion, really to review some of the council's fiduciary duties and responsibilities. It's also come to council's attention that there have been informal requests to council to rescind the patio in question, and with an expectation that that could be affected in today's meeting. I think there's a general consensus around the council table and with in collaboration with staff that the nuances of the bylaw and the rights and privileges enjoyed by the bylaw requires us to follow standard cadence for affecting the change that would have to occur through like bylaw review. And so with that understanding, I don't think I'd be in a position to support an motion this afternoon to immediately rescind the permit for the patio. That being said, I do think that there's substantial community input that has not been provided to council in a formal, detailed way. Our normal protocol, as many of you in the room know, is we receive correspondence, we receive information through email, the information flows to town council, it gets posted on a council agenda and becomes disclosed to the community. And it's an opportunity for all sides of the issue to have an opportunity to voice their various opinions, and for council to receive the full benefit and the weight of all of those various perspectives in a timeline that's logical.
That's not what we
Makes sense.
Order.
So
We didn't really remind people, but this is really not an opportunity for
Right.
public input, so sorry about that. When we get to the end of the council process and the end of the formal meeting, we obviously wouldn't mind having a conversation. Thank you.
So Mayor, I think in an effort to try to be helpful today, I think we have a council meeting on Tuesday, and we also are in a position to have a special council meeting in mid-July. I think that it's important for council to receive information from staff about the bylaw and and any recommendations they may have about changes that could be beneficial to the community. And I think that's probably a better path to undertake. So I would move that, I guess, giving a notice of motion that on Tuesday, meeting at 9 a.m. in that meeting, that there'll be a formal motion of council to recommend a staff report. And obviously at that time, the staff report will address a lot of the questions that many around the table have today. So I'd like to provide that notice of motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Don't need it?
No, so I guess, just where it's a special motion or special meeting,
Okay.
the notice of motion would be taken to mean that in the agenda for the meeting on Tuesday, there will be a proposed motion from Councillor Feeney. So, the order of things here is we'll need to get your motion to fill in by tomorrow when the package goes out, but yeah.
Fair enough. And Mayor, I think as far as an outreach to the community, seeking that they provide council with their thoughts on this topic in a timely manner would be very helpful. I know that, in our standard cadence would have to receive that information. It would have to be in hand now. I'm not sure, CAO, what the maximum amount of flexibility we can provide folks to be able to ensure that their correspondence is entered into the public record on Tuesday is. What do you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the challenges, obviously, with the normal process of the town. Anyone should be able to see an agenda for a meeting, know that it's happening, have the opportunity to be participating, to come out to speak at the input session, which is the beginning of our regular meetings. There's a public input session. Often when it's on a bylaw, like the streets and sidewalks bylaw that permitted this installation, there would even be a scheduled hearing so that everybody would get a designated amount of time to let council know their feelings. So in those cases, pre-advertisement is key to allow people the opportunity to participate. You would typically not go less than 3 days for a special meeting. The normal cutoff is 5 days, 5 business days for regular meeting of council. In the event that you're talking about a hearing, you need 2 weeks of public advertisement. So it's all a matter of how much notice can you provide. Obviously, today, we were only able to provide a couple of hours of notice of this meeting. So in terms of Tuesday, the notice for the meeting will go tomorrow. We can add correspondence that's come in between tomorrow and the meeting, but it will not be available for the public to review prior to the meeting. So that is one of the reasons why council would often set a special meeting date and clearly promote the opportunity for the public to either give advance feedback or potentially come to the meeting and participate in a hearing or something like that.
Mayor, maybe that's a better idea. And if you and the CAO can like to confer and come back to council with a special meeting date that provides a more, a more standard cadence for the notifications, that I'm sure council will be amenable to that. So if you want to set a special meeting date where this issue would be better adjudicated, I think everybody be wide open to that as well. Do you have a timeline, Dylan? Did you think about a more appropriate time to do that, if not Tuesday morning?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the proper kind of allowance for time would have it not before the week of the 14th. So next week, we would, be able to put out the notice and we'd have the week to receive information and ensure that people were aware of the meeting. So, could be any time during the week of the 14th. We normally do it either Friday mornings or an evening. I think we have a couple of free evenings that week, so, God forbid we would have one without a meeting. I'm sure we can fill one in, or the morning of Friday the 18th. But that would be, giving people, including the property owner, the opportunity to provide input on the record that everyone could review.
Council Wilson.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that as part of this analysis, that we get full input from our operations people, just so we're clearly aware of the specifications and the safety issues and so on.
And that's a separate point as well. So if the notice of motion that's been made results in a motion on Tuesday requesting a staff report, I would then, in order to have the staff report be included in a public package provided in advance of the meeting, definitely need the meeting not to take place before the 18th of July.
18th is fine.
Council Carter.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I just want to say, send my condolences to the family and friends and close ones of Barbara Menard. She was much loved in our community and it's a great loss.
That should have come from everybody and not just from you, Penny, but thank you.
I just want to let people in the gallery know, again, just picking up on Councillor Feeney's comments. People know one at a time. I've heard from people in the community, but we haven't all had an opportunity to share the same information. And we can't, in good conscience, make decisions as a group, as a council, without having as much information as we need. And I recognize the sense of urgency that is felt in the community. But we can't make a decision on the basis of feeling that urgency, and we do need to take the time to gather as much information as we possibly can before coming to a decision.
Well, waiting for somebody else to be killed.
Order. Are there any other comments? Am I allowed to vacate the seat and make another motion?
Yeah, certainly. Our deputy mayor's not here, so I guess you need a volunteer from council to take the seat, but you certainly can do that.
Okay, I'm going to make another motion.
So right now, we don't have a motion on the
Oh,
floor.
no, but
So you
is
can
that
make yours or someone
okay?
can make, any motion
Okay.
could be made.
So I'm
Just take
taking,
notice.
do it physically.
With some, no, I don't do physical.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Wilson is now chairing.
Can I sit there?
Sure. I know this is not a regular procedure, but either is the situation. And I make a motion to revoke the permit for the patio on Main Street.
For seconders.
For the second? Apparently not.
I
No.
will second,
Go ahead. Councilor
I was
Carter.
gonna second the motion, to get the motion.
No clap, please, no clapping.
Procedure, first off, obviously, the clapping is a little bit difficult for them to continue, but also, just so you know. Seconding a motion is required to allow for discussion of the motion. Neither moving nor seconding the motion ties people to a vote, but the council is now able to discuss this motion.
Yeah, well, by seconding, and it ties us to vote.
Yes.
It requires us to vote, which locks us into a decision today that cannot be overturned. So essentially makes the previous 45 minutes moot, because the decision is entirely going to be decided in the next 5 minutes.
Just a bit of clarity again on the procedure. If this motion were not to succeed, that wouldn't in any way preclude the previous discussion about motions requesting a staff report or proposing revision of the bylaw.
But would absolutely preclude a reversal of the decision.
It certainly, and if the motion were to pass, then it would preclude some of those other things, but I just wanted to be clear that it's not all or nothing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the question, wow.
No,
So,
is it further discussion?
Any discussion? Brian? Welcome.
Well, it's clearly a difficult and sad event that we're facing, but we have representation from stronger representation from the community in a particular direction. But this meeting was called at hours' notice, as has been already discussed. There are other viewpoints, there are other implications to this decision, which will affect the town as a whole and all of you. So it seems to me we're better off having some more information than we have at the moment. In that closed session, there are issues that I wasn't even aware of, and I'm not prepared to vote on something on the strength of a 2 or 3, 5 or 10 minutes. Not even a discussion, just announcements of what the situation is. So I think we're better off coming to a more wholesome result or outcome once we've involved the town more broadly and better understand what the implications might be of such a decision.
Yeah, your comments, any?
No, I just think it's the right thing to do. It's an unusual circumstance. I know, and it's not just emotional on my part. I just think that it's the right thing to do at the right time. In other circumstances, it's not I'm against outdoor patios or people being entertained outside. This is a situation where I think we need to take action.
Dr. Toano, anything?
I can see both sides. And I feel that I don't disagree with Councilor Colford that we don't have all of the information, and yet on the other side, I understand that, you know, the family and friends feel very strongly about the happening. So I'm really not prepared to vote without having more information.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Carter.
Yes, and we also know that the staff will be working closely with the owner of the property to be looking at anything that needs to be remediated. So that in terms of safety, the work will continue.
Okay. Anything further? Ms. Monroe, would you mind reading the motion?
That council revoke the streets and sidewalks permit for 538 Main Street.
Okay, you ready? All those in favor, by hand? Opposed?
Oh, no.
Motion fails. You can have your
Nope,
chair back.
I can have my. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Last week,
Our business is done. The meeting is Oh, sorry, Counselor.
I think it's fair with this group that we normally have a period at the end where
Oh,
questions can be asked
sure,
pertaining to what was on the agenda.
okay,
There might be a couple, I don't know.
all right, with any, raise your,
Before that, can I just clarify, because we did have a notice of motion, so the only outcome of the meeting is that there will be a motion on the agenda for Tuesday, and that agenda will go out tomorrow. There will be a motion included for Tuesday that Councillor Feeney is making, and I believe you provided some specifications that that motion would be directing staff to provide a report and setting a future date for fulsome consideration of the issue. So just so everyone knows, that was something that has been done today. Sorry to
We
interrupt.
were assured this morning that that would come down tonight or tomorrow.
Are
you taking that down?
do you wanna, Murray, do you wanna?
That's what you.
No, that's
You-
process.
We, this morning,
he's not taking that. That's what he's.
this morning, we said we would take it to council. It takes,
So they put the.
only council can direct it, the mayor has no power to do that. So and I leave this chamber and we have to come out united as a council, so council has made a decision for now and we'll visit this topic on Tuesday morning. Again, correct?
Yeah, there is going to be an item on the agenda on
Yes.
Tuesday.
Do you understand? that?
Yeah, for those who don't know me, I'm Nancy Ann Barber's daughter. There are two things here, there's the patio and there's the sidewalk. Opening the sidewalk for residential use does not exclude the patio.
That's right.
It just means taking the tables away from the sidewalk and opening the sidewalk. It doesn't mean the entire patio needs to be dismantled immediately. We simply need to remove this wooden bar on both sides and allow access. This is typical that waiters cross sidewalks to bring food. The patio can still exist for now. If it is then later deemed to be safe, it can still exist, but why can't we open the sidewalk? So that people can still continue to use the sidewalk? It only means that 3 tables would have to be put elsewhere, or, you know what I mean?
Yes.
We just wanna have the sidewalk back. Is that a possibility?
For now.
For now, you know?
Yeah.
I know, I can only say so much this, but I just wanted the opportunity to respond. After this meeting and based on council decisions, staff will be working with the owner of the property. With their support, there may be solutions like that. So I don't want to preclude that there may be some immediate action and then it may result
It
in.
makes sense.
Yeah,
It's a good compromise.
And it will just need to be something that happens rather than by the fiat of council. It will have to happen in cooperation with the property owner, and I cannot comment on whether there'll be a willingness to do that, but I'm certainly going to have those conversations immediately following the meeting.
Just someone in the back with their hand up. I can't see you, only you.
Here,
Oh, hi.
so while the patio is still up and running, then how do you ensure people's safety? As we go forward?
I mean, I'll speak to this again. I think this is essentially how we would with any installation on the sidewalk. We hear concerns, we reach out to the property owner, we give them the opportunity to voluntarily address the concerns. And as was noted, a report would come back from staff to council saying, we do not believe that this is safe, can be made safe. The owner isn't willing to make it safe. If it comes to that, at this point, the installation only went in as of Friday. And
Yeah,
we-
it took 2 days for someone to
Or,
basically,
or if you want to speak, put up your hand and we'll get your time. Okay.
That makes no sense.
So my answer is this, staff have not concluded that the property owner is unwilling to make improvements. We simply haven't had time to have those conversations with the property owner. If we conclude that those improvements will not be made, then we will be recommending to council that the permit be revoked. There is actually a clause in the bylaw saying if staff do conclude that there is no way for this to be done safely, that the permit will be revoked. We haven't reached a conclusion of that process, unfortunately.
Nobody seems to have any
For
brains to do this.
Corinne and do what?
Yeah, so I found it interesting that the town would have an inspection and not close it. We have a senior, and I've heard of other people injured as well. We have a senior who died. And that patio was not closed, an inspection happened. So if an inspection happens, you close the patio. You close the whole thing down until a proper investigation happens. Now, this is what happens in other provinces in Canada, number one. Number two, if we are saying that on Tuesday, there will be a special meeting, are you saying that you will have a public announcement to the people of Mahone Bay for comment? Meaning, the reference here this evening was that there was a lot of comments, but not everybody had the right information and couldn't make a decision. I was in a meeting yesterday with yourself and Dylan with 6 other members and provided photos and provided information, not only from the family, but from within people in the community. So are you saying that in this meeting that is to occur on Tuesday, you will make a public announcement to the town of Mahone Bay for comment? Meaning, we will all have a chance on the website for the town hall to make comment. And then with that information, with your insurance people that did the investigation, with the views of the family and the concerned citizens of Mahone Bay, then you would make a decision. Is that what you're saying this meeting on Tuesday would be about? And that the town, these people here and the citizens of Mahone Bay can comment?
You can send your comments in before. I'll let Councillor Keane.
So,
Councillor Keane's
no,
question.
I think that, no, and if I left you with that impression, that was a mistake on my part. What we're trying to do is we're trying to take in a formal way, all of the relevant information, concerns, critiques, and perspectives from the community at large.
Right.
And we have process that we have to follow to do that. So what we're requesting of the gallery and for the community at large is, if you feel strongly about this topic, please bring it to council's attention, but bring it to council's attention formally, either through written correspondence or an email, through the standard normal protocol and channels. We also will have an opportunity for anybody who feels that it would be helpful to council to hear, they can come to the meeting on Tuesday and provide a public presentation on the topic. So we didn't have the opportunity to affect any of those avenues to anybody in the room because, an hour and a half ago, I was in my office in Halifax, minding my own business. And so this is all a bit of a rise in a quick cadence. So what we're trying to navigate as a council is rules that we're required to follow by, due process that all of the various parties deserve to enjoy, and trying to make sure that when we end up finally getting to a decision, the decision will be thoughtfully made and will be done in consideration of all of the relevant parties and facts and it will be a decision that won't be made in haste, but will be made with all of the relevant information. And remember, there will be consequences to either decision for other business owners down the road, other people around the corner. So this is like the bylaw needs to, if the bylaw is a living, breathing document, and if it needs to be amended, fair enough. And then if there's a specific issue that needs to be addressed on Main Street, well, that's a specific issue that staff and the business owner will have to address as well. And council could come to a conclusion, although it's not crystal clear to me procedurally if our hands are now tied. Now that we've had that vote this morning, whether there will even be an opportunity. So I am disappointed we had that vote, which I think was taken in haste, because it's not clear to me procedurally if we could even revisit that motion again. And I'm disappointed that a rush to do that today based on is going to preclude that motion potentially being approved down the road. I'm not saying it would be, but I think because we had that motion today and went down 5-1, that we're precluded from having that motion again. So, I mean, decisions were made today in this meeting that I think some of them I think we'll regret.
No.
And I think we'll regret having that vote because it no longer allows us to
New
rescind
information comes up.
if it comes up. Yeah,
And I'm sure it will.
we'll see.
Just two things.
See ya.
So to the question about due process and everything, obviously Tuesday being advertised tomorrow still doesn't really allow people a lot of time. Councillor Feeney is going to submit the motion, will appear in the package tomorrow. And I think we'll give some thought to, how could we provide sufficient time. So that was my point about the following week, setting a date, giving that opportunity. So it may be that Tuesday, while there is a public input session, obviously at the beginning of the meeting, will mostly serve to set a date the following week and publicize that date and request that people provide if they want to get on the agenda to speak to it. I just wanted to clarify. And then just procedurally speaking, there are two scenarios where reconsideration of that motion would be very reasonable under our policies. One is when staff has provided a report on the incident, then council will have that report, and on that basis, that is new information. Also, if a bylaw revision were to take place, after the revision of the bylaw, it would absolutely be in order to consider that motion again in the context of a new bylaw. So Councillor Feeney is correct. Our policy does prohibit voting on the same motion again, meeting after meeting, if nothing has changed. But it does allow for this motion to be reconsidered after a report has been provided on the incident or a bylaw revision has taken place. So just to provide that.
Trudy's been waiting a long time to speak, and then Robin, you'll be next.
I just briefly wanted to make two comments. First, thank you, Stan, for doing what you felt was the right thing. I think that took bravery among your colleagues, and it did speak from your heart. And I have no doubt that the council will, in its own appropriately good time, come to the right decision in as much as it feels able. I feel that this meeting has been conducted as though Barbara didn't die. I feel as if none of us, none of you have adequately expressed the depth of our loss as a community. We lived with this woman. She was here for 100 years. We all knew her. We had coffee with her. We went to church with her. And at the very least, the people in this room, as a group, ought to have stood up and said, I am so sorry that Barbara has died. None of that suggests for a minute that you're responsible. There's no legal implication for that sort of statement, but at least it would put into context that the extent of our loss for only 1,000 people. Instead, it's been detached, and Dylan's been jocular, which is his way. I get it, but this is not a time for that.
Robin? Robin, did you want?
I just want to ask the councillor if you could give me a definition, or if you have a definition of the word emergency. Yeah, and what we should do in an emergency. And what can the city do in an emergency? If there's a pothole in the street, you put up pylons and you put up red and white things and say drive around. What are you doing in terms of emergency? We're talking about Tuesday, which is in 5 days. Hopefully nothing happens. And then a meeting in the middle of August. I mean, come on. Can you give me a definition of the word emergency? Please. Please. I'd like to know. You talk about we're being too hasty. You know, I hope nobody gets hurt. Can you tell me the meaning of the word?
Her mother died.
I hope it's not another death.
Emergency. It's an emergency. It has to be done today, not in 5 days.
Yes.
Not, let's talk about it in 5 days. Send me some more, you know, the building's early. Well, okay, but let's have a meeting next week on Tuesday.
Somebody else could.
No,
A
it's an
child
emergency.
could be injured or fall into the traffic. Really, it's something
Or
that
there's not
anyone
anyone to be hurt.
today. My mother was a sacrifice in this case.
Her mother would not have died otherwise.
And she would want to know, and she was vocal about that, wasn't she? She was vocal about it, that something
Had to be done. That's what she said. I saw her on Monday and she said, no, this can't happen to someone else. I need to contact the town. I need to contact the restaurant. We cannot let this happen again.
So let's start the meeting again and say, there's an emergency that has to be dealt with. Not, there's something happened that has to be pushed off until
And
next.
we have to speak to the owner of how they feel about it and if they are willing. No, not if they are fucking willing. Something has to happen today.
So let's start this meeting again. Okay, you want to talk about it again?
We want to have some compassion. And we don't take.
No.
Not just.
And thank you, Mayor.
So why is it not an emergency?
We don't don't want to sit here 2 weeks from now and say, oh, there was another incident. We're so sorry about that. Maybe it's time to act. No, let's act now.
Somebody else did fall.
Someone else was there, else already don't know who it was, but somebody else was in
Wouldn't
there.
you just close the sidewalk temporarily until the.
What would you do if this was, what would you do if
You can't
it was
close
a
the sidewalk, there's no other sidewalk over there.
Close the ramp, close the ramp.
Exactly.
Open the sidewalk.
Open the sidewalk.
Sidewalk.
Open the sidewalk. Let's have to take one bar away.
Okay,
Take
is
that.
there anyone else who wants to give input?
I think we're waiting for a definition of work emergency.
Yes, we want no one else to be hurt.
Well, this was your time to talk and council doesn't necessarily respond during open.
Have you spoken to the owner? Cause as of this morning, we were trying to reach the owner.
Yes. Yes.
I guess I don't feel that I can comment on the substance of the conversation, but I did get to, yeah, I did get to meet with the owner and she did have the opportunity to provide counsel with some written response.
So if she can't answer the question, is her plan to do something about this sidewalk patio or? Because when we left this morning, you said if she agrees to dismantle it, fine. If she doesn't, by 3:30 this afternoon, we'll have our workers down there dismantling it.
That's exactly.
Well, I did say that was based on the passage of the.
Only if council gave that direct.
Right.
So something
Right.
happened in a closed meeting before this meeting that hindered that response.
Exactly.
We don't know what it was, but something hindered it. It could be a legal action that is pending. We don't know, possibly.
She will fight, Daniela will fight.
You know, this person appears to me, I don't know this woman, but she appears to be an unpleasant person. Why are we
I
supposed?
think that's a really rude thing to say. If you don't know her, she's a wonderful person. I know she called me 2 days ago and said she was gutted when she heard
Okay,
her.
I think our business has concluded and I think I will accept a motion for adjournment.
It's just what I
Councillor,
I am
the meeting is disturbed. You're welcome to have your conversations, but our meeting is over. And I'd like I know the motions are high, but